Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I found this article over on mtgrocks.com entitled MTG Enemy Fetch Lands Are at All-Time Low Prices, and I think it really does a good job of underscoring what I've been saying about almost all modern MTG singles being uninvestable. So it starts off and it just says, fetch lands are infamous land cards in the game that command notoriously high prices. What are fetch lands in case you somehow don't know? And what are enemy and allied colors? And so, of course, you'll remember Modern Horizons 2 that came out this past summer. It reprinted the enemy fetch lands. And so they go through one by one on these and they show, at one time Scalding Tarn was over $100 and now it's just 33. And of course, it's the most desirable because it's the red blue one, which they kind of point out like fetching islands is more powerful than anything else. And really, red blue is arguably the best color throughout the history of Magic, and maybe blue black is the second best. And so then they go on to Misty Rainforest. At one time it was over $90. Now it's down to 30. Arid Mesa, it's $20 now, and it was over 50 at some point. And Marsh Flats down to $18, and Verdant Catacombs $80 down to 24. Okay, so you can come over here to TCG Player, and so I just did a simple search for Scalding Tarn. And of course, if you're doing a search like this, you want to search in Magic the Gathering. You don't want to search this one because this one will not return extended arts and retro frames and foil etch. So you want to do the more general search here to get all the variations. And so it's really interesting looking at the history of this card because the very first version, let's see, where is it on here? It's the one marked Zendikar. Every time you do these searches, it changes the order of the results, and it's really weird why they change the order every time. But here, Zendikar is the original copy. Okay, $30. So this came out in September of 2009, and then you had Zendikar Expeditions, which was a reprint of the enemy fetch lands. And Zendikar Expeditions was the masterpiece set for Battle for Zendikar, which came out in September of 2015. So it was 6 years later. Okay, so for 6 years, all you had was this original print. And then you had Modern Masters 2017. And let's see, where is it? Right here. So that one came out in March of 2017. So, between the Expedition version and this one, you had, about a year and a half. And then you had the Zendikar Rising Expedition, which came out as the masterpiece set for Zendikar Rising in late 2020, September of 2020. So not that late in the year. Okay? And then there's one card on here, this one that's called Pre-Release. And it came out, well, of course, the pre-release. It was the pre-release card for the Modern Horizons 2 set that came out in June of this year. And then you have several that are labeled Modern Horizons 2, and those are all the variations because they had these two retro frames, and they had a foil version and a non-foil, and then they had the regular one, and then I guess the extended art. Did they have a foil? No, it doesn't look like they have a foil version of that. And then there was a secret lair, and I kind of don't consider that because I'm not really sure how many people actually use secret lairs to play with. I kind of get the impression they're just more for collectors. So I kind of won't talk about those. But here's the interesting thing. If you look at the prices, obviously the Zendikar Expeditions have a much higher price than the rest, and the Zendikar Rising Expeditions are a bit higher. But all the rest of them are kind of in the same range, 32, 29, 38, 32, 30, 55, 38. Okay. And it's odd to me, it's another thing I don't understand, is why the regular retro frame is more expensive than the foil etched retro frame. And so you can see that most of the variations of this card more or less move in lockstep. And so the scarcity of them is kind of treated the same by the market, with the exception of the two Expedition versions, which of course are Masterpiece series cards. And I think they both came just in box toppers to give you an idea of how much more rare they would be. And so if we come over here to MTG stocks and we look, here's our Scalding Tarn from Zendikar. So this is the original one, and we can look at what the price has done over time. Now, originally this came out in September of 2009, and these data being tracked on the website only go back to June of 2012. So it misses about the first 3 years of price data for these cards. But you can see compared to today's price of, we'll take the market price because that's, some kind of like moving average of actual sales on TCG Player. So we'll take that at $44. And all the way back here when they started pricing them, it was like $16. Okay. So if you've held this thing for north of 9 years, you've almost tripled your money. And that's not too bad. If you do the calculation for the compound annual growth rate of that, it's about 10%. It's really not terrible. The problem is you had to have gotten into that card 9 years ago. And really past about this point here, sometime July of 2013, if you got into this card, if you bought it as an investment, anytime after July of 2013, you're down. Like, you've lost money over that period. And that doesn't even include like the 12 to 15% you're going to pay for market fees and shipping if you actually go and sell the card. And so almost any time you could have bought this card in the history of its existence, you would be down right now because we've just been hit by Modern Horizons 2 reprinting the card. And ultimately, that's the big threat to the long-term investment value of every Modern Magic card, is they can just be reprinted. And Wizards will reprint allied fetch lands and enemy fetch lands in the future. They will reprint them again and again and again because they are insanely valuable and powerful cards. They have such a utility when, at times when they're standard legal, they become even more popular. And, they're such great cards that WotC knows if we put these cards into a set, it's going to get more people to buy the sealed product, which is what WotC cares about. WotC doesn't care about your secondary collection and the value of it in the market. They care about what they can sell in sealed product today by enticing you with the most valuable and sought-after cards from the past and reprinting those cards. And so I went ahead and just ran the same thing with Marsh Flats. Let's see, here's Zendikar Expedition and Zendikar Rising Expedition. It's interesting, the Zendikar Rising Expedition really doesn't command any premium, but all the rest of the versions, 16, 23, 17, 29, that's Secret Lair, 15, 18, 22. So, high teens, low 20s in the prices. And again, if you come over and you look at the original Zendikar version, which will have the most historic data on it, if you bought it way, way, way back here at $10, and today, it's about 20. So you've doubled your money over 9 years. That's pretty bad. Using the rule of 72, that's about an 8% compound annual growth rate. And again, almost any time after about April of 2013 that you would purchase that, you would be down on your investment right now. And so ultimately, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Here are the data that show just a small little window into a couple specific cards, albeit very popular cards, but the effect of what happens when WotC reprints these. And you can expect this more and more in the future. Again, these are very, very popular cards. They're very powerful. Any multicolored deck wants these cards. I've seen monocolored decks that use these cards just because it thins out your library. I mean, fetch lands are just amazing. And so WotC is going to continue to reprint these forever. Now, what's the one upside to this? What if you enjoy playing tournament play? And right now, as the article says, fetch lands are at their lowest prices ever. Or at the lowest, I don't know that they're really all-time low, but in fact, we just saw that they weren't all-time low. But they're the lowest they've been in 9 years. Now, if you play tournament, today is the day that you should be going out and buying a 4-pack of every one of these enemy fetch lands in case you want to play some color combination in the future. Now is the time to be doing that, but that's because you love the card for its utility and for its tournament format legality. And those are two of the 4 things that I always talk about. Give a card its value. And so if you're in that boat, go out and buy the cards today. Now is the time. Pick whichever the cheapest version is of this and buy 4 of them and get all the rest of the enemy fetches. And the next time WotC reprints allied fetch lands, buy 4 of each of those a few months after the set releases with them, so the prices have kind of crashed down a bit. And then use them for your tournament play for years to come. So you can benefit from this, but just not from an investment standpoint, because over time this stuff's going to be reprinted. And again, people will point out kind of edge cases, things like, well, um, you know, Strixhaven Mystical Archive Japanese versions will not be reprinted. And I agree. I think WotC will never reprint those artworks again. I think those are truly unique. But, let's say you bought a couple Japanese demonic tutors to get slabbed and invest in long term. Well, every time WotC reprints demonic tutor, which they are going to many times in the future, they will, the value of that card will go down a little bit, but will the uniqueness of that artwork that will probably only be printed once ever be enough to keep the net value going up over time? Maybe it will. And so there are some cases where you can make a better argument that individual modern singles are investable, but ultimately it hinges on the assumption that WotC will not reprint those things. And maybe there are a few cards like Death Corona, we can be pretty sure they won't reprint that. But again, we're making assumptions there. And I think that you have to rely on those assumptions and guess how right you will be. And ultimately, it's much more risky than just buying great old reserve list cards. Buy near mint copies of reserve list cards, or buy new sealed product and hold it for several years. Those are much better investments. So let me know what you think. I know this is a moderately contentious issue, and I don't know. I enjoy hearing what y'all have to say about this, and I know some of y'all are very articulate and very persuasive, and have gotten me to really think about things differently so far. And even my whole idea of the 4 places that a card gets its value from, that came from a guy in the comments that really just got me stimulated to thinking more about my own arguments. So let me know what you think. If you like this kind of thing, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. I'd love to have you. Thanks.